You're watching WRKM Channel 22, number one in the region. Good evening. I'm Ralphie Martinez, and this one in darkness. It used to be here, but now it's here. New things for episode 100 and beyond. We, as you can tell, have invested some money into the show. Not necessarily our money. It wasn't our money. It is safe to say we have got ourselves a financier. Some would say from a foreign government in need of a rehab of its current appearance. One would say its reputation has been tarnished, and they have decided to invest in this show in hopes that we could help facilitate that. Now, I did go on a trip to this country that I cannot name, and it was quite the pilgrimage. It was a great tourist trip. I had never been to that part of the world before, and a lot's been said about that part of the world. But I'll have you know, the part I was in was awesome and was totally great. And we should not jump to conclusions about what we think is happening in that part of the world. So that is my message to all you watching today. Conveniently, coincidentally, ironically, I also have to start this show with not an apology. It's not an apology. It's not an apology. It's a, how do I say, acknowledgement of something that oh boy, this was a lot easier when we talked about it backstage, Bobby. But as you know, there's a lot going on in the news today about one Jeffrey Epstein. And you know, it's been surprising to see whose names have appeared in the emails. It's also not been surprising to see whose names have appeared on the email. All depends on what side of the aisle you're on, I guess. Just checking to make sure that foreign country saw our promotion of it. But I'm not in the emails. But in the emails, it was revealed that Jeffrey Epstein played a lot of Xbox. And for that matter, a lot of Call of Duty around 2013. I used to play a lot of Xbox in 2013. Friend lent me one while he was going on vacation, and I played a lot of it for that summer. And I played a lot of Call of Duty. When the news came forward, it's getting hot in here. Uh, when it all came out that Jeffrey had played Xbox and Call of Duty during his time, I looked into it and I found that his gamer tag at the time was Lolita Sniper 69. Why is that relevant? Well, the second I read the email, memories came. I did play with a player named Lolita Sniper 69. I also little hot under these lights. It was not one time we played, it was several times that we played. Several times. And I should have known something was up. You know, there would be several times where he would say, "We got him in a corner. Let's get this kid." Or, "Now that we're done with him, let's send him back to the island." And the island had become kind of a thing that, you know, we would tell our opponents, "We're going to send you to the island. You know, we're going to banish you away because you're just a shitty player." I didn't know that he had a real island. Though he had invited me out several times because we both live in the same city, I did not take this into real life. I thought we were gaming friends. You know, he was not a big fan of public lobbies. He was more of a private lobby kind of guy, and only would play with other players he knew through other players. It was kind of a ring of that sort where everyone knew each other and played together. We would also talk about our personal lives. And I did ask him for relationship advice time to time because it was 2013. I wasn't doing particularly well with ladies. And he would often ask how old were they and why wasn't I not trying to go for younger at the time. I just thought, oh, he's a pervy old man. Surely he is not trafficking anyone. We hadn't even spoken about the word trafficking in society at that time. And he would always tell me, you should whoever she's interested in, get leverage on him and blackmail him so he stops talking to her. We all thought he was being cheeky, you know? But here we are now, finding out we were wrong. He would say such terrible things to the players, many N-words. He once called me a sand N-word, which I did not know what that was until he explained it to me. Powerful stuff. There were signs and I missed it. Now I know I'm small potatoes in all this. I'm not a celebrity, really. I have a green screen, so maybe I now might become one. But I do feel that I should acknowledge my foolishness and not being more aware of who I was engaging in virtual murder with. And surely someone like myself can easily see how being connected to someone like this is terrible. Surely those above me, more powerful, will surely do the same. Surely they will not deny they knew him. It's in the emails. We knew him. He said things to us. So I can't be the only one apologizing for something I didn't really do. Something I'm more of a victim of circumstance with. I just want to play Call of Duty. And then I didn't see him again after he got banned permanently. So I feel if I am able to apologize for this, surely men like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, is Noam Chomsky still alive? Can he write an apology maybe? Surely these powerful men will apologize too. I was complicit without knowing I was being complicit. And had I known then what I know now, I don't know what I could have done actually. He seemed quite powerful. It every time we would lose, he would threaten to have our families killed and our deepest, darkest secrets revealed to everyone. So we were under pressure to win those games. One kid cried one time because Jeffrey was particularly hard on them and told them who would possibly love him. Certainly not any of his nieces, whose names were always changing every time. And he would ask if he wanted to meet them, and it'd be like, well, no, we're good on that, bud. We're good on that, bud. Lolita Sniper 69 is a wild name. It's a wild name. But I hope I can inspire other people to come forward and apologize for their connection to the man, the infamous conspiracy legend, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, most of the names that are in this list we've discussed several times on this show, so I don't see a reason to go through them again. But we are doing our own internal investigation. We do plan on coming back once we've gone through certain emails that we've gotten access to. But one particular text thread we saw between him and Woody Allen's wife was interesting, where Woody was constantly taken with the women around Jeffrey, and of course, like a sitcom, his stepdaughter / wife would constantly make jokes of Woody would never, I'd kill him if he did. Clearly knowing that Woody still had it in him to be a pedophile. That's just one of the text message threads we read. We're still going through a lot of these files, but we wanted to jump ahead and get on this apology and or accountability of having played Xbox with Jeffrey Epstein. You're probably asking, were there any girls that played with us? Yes. And Jeffrey often asked them what their sizes were. And we just thought, oh, he's just, it was 2013. 2013. And I would be surprised when a girl would come into a game lobby, and want to play Call of Duty. There was one of us, Peaches from Atlanta. Peaches did meet up with Jeffrey, and then we never heard from her again. We just thought she stopped playing the game. This is not the brightest hour of this one in darkness, or my career for that matter. But surely I'm not the only one who owes the country an apology, and I apologize for not catching him. I didn't beg to hang out with Jeffrey the way Elon Musk did. You see, unlike Elon, which is sad to say, I got invited several times. Now, some would say, well, why would he invite you and not Elon? And I think it's not really because he thought I'd be into sinister shit. He just like kicking the shit with me. We talk about movies, TV. Elon was just so thirsty to be there. And in hindsight, makes sense. Every time we'd be playing, he's like, oh, this fucking guy is calling me again. Who's calling you? It's some douche. Do some douche from South America. Not South Africa, sorry. Don't want to get that wrong. Elon might sue. I hope he does. We could use the press. Homie begging to be on Pedophile Island. And yet I got the invite. So what does that say? Says I'm cooler than Elon. Says it seems like Ralph can keep a secret. Though Jeffrey would have been wrong, I've got a microphone and I keep no secrets. They get broadcasted here all the time. All the time. So that's that's my place in the Epstein saga. And I hope that Netflix calls because I would like to be part of a documentary on this. Because I think I got some good sound bites. Because I've been working on my Netflix sound bites if you want to hear them. You know, his advice was never about winning. It was always about leverage. That's a good Netflix soundbite. Anytime he lost the match, he say, you should have gathered intel first. And he was always right. He kept explaining how to ruin someone's credit instead of their KD ratio. Should have picked up on that. He played every match. He played like every match is about information and not points. These Netflix would kill for these documentary sound bites. He always invited us to private lobbies. He hated public matches because they were too unpredictable. See, this is the stuff that I could be contributing to a Netflix doc. So call me up. I've got a green screen now. I'm in the game. I'm a real player now. I've got a green screen. Put me in these Epstein docs because I've got a green screen. Now, I'm not entirely sure we're doing the green screen right. If you got any green screen tips, let us know. Because right now we're working with 2 lights, baby. Maybe we need a third just for the thing. But we are going to experiment and make it happen. I just like doing this hand motion. Like waving it around just to see the little bit of green. And there I am pointing out the flaws on a green screen. But you like the background, though. It's cool in space. We are going to take a quick break to gather ourselves. This went a little easier than I thought. Bobby was not playing on Call of Duty at that time. Bobby wasn't born yet. As he likes to remind us, which I find to be particularly weird, because if you weren't born in 2013, then how are you 18 now? I'm tired of you. Think about firing you every day. That's why I should enough for 100 episodes. Get you out of here, Bobby. I don't even need you anymore. That's mean. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. You deserve to celebrate too. Cheers, bud. Cheers. We'll be right back after these sponsored break. Today's episode is sponsored by a brand new sponsor. We're really excited to have this sponsor, Menage, your daily tablet to inducing millionaire psychosis. We want to make sure you get the ad read right. Now, let's be fair. At one time, Menage was the pill. It wasn't just a supplement. It was an era. Back when confidence was loud, dominance was pink, and every room had to acknowledge when you walked in. Menage ran the scene for these kind of pills. Now, sure, people have moved on to other pills. Stallion, Spice, Barty. Trendier pills, different vibes, different generations. But Menage didn't just disappear, okay? It pivoted. Suddenly, it wasn't about relevance. It was about being misunderstood as a brand. This pill will remind you that you're being attacked at all times and that you are not the problem. Everyone else is. Some users have reported side effects, such as arguing with teenagers online, confusing criticism with persecution, and a powerful belief that respect is owed, not earned. Now, is Menage relevant in the pill scene today? Some would say a little bit, but no. But it still has something special to offer. It provides you with deep, unshakable confidence that you're still on top, even while everything else is going to shit. It should not be combined with alcohol, collaboration, competition, and newer formulas for receiving attention. It is best taken solo. Menage It's not where the culture is going, it's where you're going. And, we're really happy this sponsor came to us because they had originally planned a multi-city publicity tour for this pill. And it's safe to say there wasn't a lot of interest. People were not interested in lining up for Minaj. So they pulled back and said, hey, would you be willing to promote our product? And I said, sure. Because we are always looking for a sponsor. So Minaj, take it, keep a journal, because you will be apologizing when the money runs dry. Thank you to our sponsor. There were many things that happened while we were gone that we missed, such as the Peretti shooting and things of that nature. But one thing we did miss while we were away was a good friend of ours, not really a good friend, more of someone we tolerate and love to watch or hate watch, if we're being honest with you. One of our favorites, Tim Pool. Tim Pool, if you don't know who he is, was originally a Occupy Wall Street guy turned infinite loser and bootlicker for the right. Because the well dried up. Vice stopped calling him. Fuse TV stopped calling him. Because he no longer had any insight to provide. Because he was not tackling the big stories. So being spurned by all the cool media, he decided to pivot to right-wing media. And that beanie is part of the uniform. The way this Yankee hat is part of the uniform. But the difference is, I have hair. Luscious, beautiful hair. Tim does not. But Tim had his own take on the Peretti shooting. And I thought it'd be nice for us to get back to basics and get our feet under us after our Epstein apology with going back to an old friend.
On immigration, but I don't think the government should be allowed. And I'm like, bro, by all means, scream into the wind. Alberts, you know why I love libertarians so much? Because whenever a fight breaks out, they fold like cheap suits.
That's not fair.
So I don't have to worry about them at all. These libertarians come out and they're like, look, I'm concerned about immigration, but I don't think the government should be allowed. And I'm like, bro, by all means, scream into the wind. Because if anything actually has to happen, you're going to stand there with our arms crossed while we do the jobs that need to be done.
You hear that?
But what I love so much about
Tim,
this especially is that
Tim himself is going to do the job that needs to be done. Now, Tim may not look it, okay? But Tim's a tough guy, okay? That guy can take a punch, I think. He's been at several protests. I'm sure he's been maced before. You may look at him and think scrawny nerd. I think not. I think he is a man of great physical ability. A man who's recently trained to be a marksman because now he lives in the woods of Virginia because he thinks he's constantly under threat by his enemies. Though who his enemies are, I'll never know. I don't count myself as one of his enemies. I count myself as one of the people who's trying to help him. I'm trying to help him get through this. But he refuses. But let it be known, Tim is no punk. Okay? He will get the job done, and the libertarians won't.
that these people who are saying, I thought you were for the Second Amendment, Tim.
I thought so.
I was never in favor of the right to keep and bear arms, to go and obstruct duly appointed law enforcement officials from a duly elected government because you disagreed with the policy position everybody else voted for. The idea that you were like, don't I have a right to go fight a cop with a gun? No, you don't. And the funny thing is, I love this, guys. I'm gonna let you in on a big secret. Did you know the Second Amendment was not about fighting tyranny? I'm sick of these people who have this like seventh grade American traditionalist view of the Second Amendment, where they're like, the founding fathers were concerned the government would take over, but tyrannical government would oppress them, so they needed to be armed at all times. There was a factor in the Second Amendment of which was the regulars from the crown were trying to take our guns from us, for which we used to protect ourselves, and we said no. And if you allow us to take your weapons, you will be oppressed. But the principal reason for the Second Amendment was not just because they were like, guys, what if we overthrow our new government? In fact, a bunch of the founding fathers were like, we don't want to give the people guns. They'll overthrow us. We just want a new government.
I love when guys bring up the Second Amendment. I do. Because when someone says the Second Amendment isn't about resisting tyranny, but about defense approved by the state, what they're really saying is gun rights are real, but only for the people I approve of, or only for the people who behave. And history has absolutely showed that to not be true, right? So much beer from the TPUSA party that I attended earlier. And history absolutely does not back that up, right? From the very beginning, citizens weren't imagined as obedient extensions of the government and power. In fact, the founders were terrified of armed citizens, the way Tim is saying, when those citizens challenged authority. Look at Shays' Rebellion, look at the Whiskey Rebellion. The same people who praised armed resistance against Britain turned around and crushed it when it threatened their own power. That contradiction does not disappear, it is a pattern. And every time citizens align with power, they're seen as patriots. The moment they don't, they're seen as extremists. You see it during Reconstruction, right? When Black Americans armed themselves for self-defense, suddenly gun control became a common sense, right? You see it in the 1960s when the Black Panthers started legally carried firearms to monitor the police. Overnight, conservatives discovered the dangers of open carry. The same guns, same laws, different people. That's the real tradition Tim is getting to. That's what I find it so interesting when he does this. Like, he plays this parlor game a little bit, where it's like, rules for thee, not for me. And here's the thing about that. I don't get mad about it, because at least he's consistently inconsistent. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but like, that's something that applies to most of these dudes. They're consistently inconsistent. So when someone says Second Amendment isn't about resisting tyranny, what they mean is resistance is only legitimate when we do it. So when they want to go after Biden and Kamala and all the rest of these people, right, that's when guns were about freedom. Until dissent shows up, and then guns become evidence of guilt. It's not constitutional. It's permissional. It's permission. Permissionalism. Can that be a word, Bobby? Permissionalism? It's pro-gun, but only for compliant in-groups. And it turns a right into a reward, which I don't think rights are rewards. They are just your rights. And once again, maybe this sounds a bit whiny. I just think that your rights are your rights. And the moment you say things like, I don't believe that this person was exercising their constitutional right, even though they were, now you're picking and choosing. You're cherry picking and being consistently inconsistent. But let's give Tim a chance, shall we?
The principal issue is the general defense of a free state, which can be interpreted to mean fighting tyrannical government, but typically was about foreign invaders and not having strong standing armies. That's why the original article, of which I think it would have been Article 4 or 5, actually, before they got rid of the first two and then reduced everything down, actually had a provision about conscription not being necessary.
He's getting a gray hair.
Because the actual intent was, in a time of war, we need people to be able to defend their communities. They got to have guns. Only one component of that is in the event of tyrannical government. However, Thomas Jefferson, who famously wrote the letter saying that, what is it, every 200 years, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
He also said every 20 years we should have a new constitution, a new constitutional convention to keep everything up to date. Also said that now banged his slave mistress, had illegitimate children, still owned slaves, not a great guy, but sometimes had a nugget or two.
later went to say, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. And many of the founding fathers actually held the opinion that the crown was the crown wasn't necessarily the problem, Parliament was, and the king would not come to their aid. It wasn't this cut and dry thing like the king is bad. No, it was we're not being represented in government. As it stands right now, Ulysses Grant, what he wrote was, you have redress of grievances. You have elections.
I have plenty of
You are
grievances.
not facing taxation without representation. So while you can try to rebel,
I am facing taxation or representation a little bit, a tiny bit, because I don't want to give money and weapons to foreign countries to commit genocides. Now, maybe that doesn't fall into taxation or representation, but I'm certainly not being represented by my government. So my rights are a little bit impeded on. A tiny bit.
you will be conquered by your betters. So the argument right now is this. I'll put it simply. First of all, when these people come out and go, Tim's a bootlicker for defending us, I'm like, no, you misunderstand. It's my boots. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please go out and enforce the law. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please
I ain't licking anybody. We're going to get that on the soundboard.
go out and enforce the law. And anybody else who's cheering for it, who voted for it too, we're all wearing the boots. You're the one crying. You're the one saying you're coming in and enforcing laws we didn't vote for. Well,
Okay. So let's parse this, huh? I always love when these guys on this side play tough, because a majority of them bitch about cities they're too scared to go to. They go out with their buddies in the woods and play militia. They wear little matching uniforms. They give each other code names. These guys who have clearly never been in a fight before, been around real killers. Like I hate to do this, right? Like I hate to be the guy that does like the typical New York thing where it's like, I've been around real ass shit. And I have been around real ass shit. And I can't help that I've been around real ass shit. I'm from Brooklyn. I grew up in motorcycle clubs my entire life. I've been around real dudes who fired their weapon and done some real work, who really stomped some boots in motherfuckers. And those dudes don't sound like Tim. Those dudes don't sound like any of these right-wing guys. Because if you're really that badass, you don't have to project it so hard. And when you look at guys like Jack Posobiec, our Department of War guy, every guy wants to play dress up on the right. And it's almost like gender reaffirming for them. Like, I'm a real man because I do all these things. Like, cool, you too needed some gender reaffirming care. And yours is just a little different. It's more cosplay therapy. I respect it. I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't identify with how you want to be identified as. You should. But Tim saying that I'm the boot, that it's my boot stomping on people, I hate to break it to you, bud. You wouldn't be able to throw hands with most people. I'm pretty sure most women could beat you in a fight. And that's no offense to women. They're just that much stronger than you. Tim does not look like a guy who can throw hands. I grew up doing jiu-jitsu, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? And one of the things I learned doing it was the quietest guy in the class was the most dangerous guy in the class. And you knew he was going to beat everybody's ass. It was just the second you got on the goddamn mats, it was game over. But when I was doing it, I didn't walk around going, yeah, I can choke this guy, I can choke this guy. I didn't do any of that. Because to me, I knew I had a responsibility at that point. I had a skill set that could potentially hurt people. I had weapons, technically. Still do, if you want to check these hands. But I didn't have this outlook where I just sucked off strong men, where I could only be with strong men. I could only be with real winners. because I need to feel tough and validated. And that's what it feels like with guys like Tim Pool, with all these right wing guys. They're all in this weird space of fragile masculinity. Because Tim ain't going out there with ICE. Tim ain't taking motherfuckers back to the deportation camps. Yeah, you voted for it. You can say that. But don't say it's your boot, dog. Your boot does not leave your compound. You're desperately afraid to leave your home. You literally, let me tell you something. This dude invited Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report to the show, his show, and shit on her for the most part, and asked her to hang out to play poker and eat sushi with the boys. And she knew, and she's a hottie, by the way, she knew he was such a loser. Why would I want to do that? Now, I haven't seen Tim Pool's wife, okay? I haven't seen who he's ended up with. But I guarantee he's no Emma Vigeland, respectfully, for just being honest here. But I always find it funny when Tim does this. When Tim tries to portray himself as a tough dude. Because, homie, you ain't got hands. We all know you ain't got hands. And matter of fact, fuck it, I'll challenge him to a fight. If you want to do it, do it. I would love nothing more than me, Tim Pool, in a cage. Let's just do it. Let's set a date. I'll start working out again. I'll get ready for this fight. I'll get back on the mats. Because it's just weird. Like, let's go back to this a little bit. I'm not sucking anybody. Like, this is such cringe ass behavior. This is such bitch ass behavior. He ain't sucking anybody, he says. But he's always got Trump's dick in his mouth. That's bizarre. He ain't sucking anybody. He wants you to know he's not sucking anybody. He's a real fucking man. He's not sucking anybody. Enforce the law.
Vote for. Well, I got bad news for you. The American people voted for the Republican Party in the House,
Sure
the
did.
Senate, the presidency, and they got the Supreme Court. That means it's the will of the people and democracy that we enforce our immigration law. I'm not going to sit here and say that children should get wrapped up and abused or anything stupid like that. Your stories are fake and they're not happening. Mistakes are made. Those are bad. We'll figure that out. But the margin of error is always going to exist, and we are going to do what our laws say. And these laws were not written by me, nor are they written by the current Congress. Our immigration laws were written 30 plus years ago, 40, 50 years ago. I only ask as a voter, and I know most of you watching, that we have those laws upheld. So when I see DHS, ICE, and they go out, and they're armed, and they're putting down these protesters, and then people look at me and say, you're licking their boot. I'll bet you misunderstand. I hired the boot. I'm paying their bills and clapping for them. So cry more about it. But your lies and manipulations ain't playing with me at all.
So it was a lie that Peretti was killed. I just want to make sure I understand Tim there. Because I don't want to get him wrong here. I don't want to get him wrong. When you say you're the boot, you just really admit that this isn't about liberty at all. It's about being aligned with force. And history is clear on this. Every regime supports gun rights for people who agree with it. The real test of the Second Amendment is whether obedient citizens can carry firearms and whether dissenters can't. And that's always the first rights that get taken away. Those are always the first ones. And I've had to hear for the last 20 years about how the Second Amendment was so fucking important that we could have a tyrannical government at any moment. This was the side Tim chose to be on. So we can't say he's not on it now. But this is the side he's on. And now you're going to tell me the Second Amendment does not apply to Peretti. And that's horseshit. And it just once again shows what we've been talking about on this show for a long time. A lot of these guys are cosplayers. A lot of these guys are not real ass dudes like Luis J. Gomez. A lot of these guys are not real ass dudes. A lot of these dudes, when it comes down to it, they want a daddy. They want a strong man daddy. And that's what makes them feel good at night. Having a strong daddy. And as someone who didn't want a dad, didn't ask for a dad, was fine without having one, let me tell you, life's pretty fucking good. Because you kind of start siding with people who actually need your help. You kind of start going, hey, I can actually help other people instead of doing what daddy tells me. I can do what I want. I can be free. But none of these free thinkers are truly free. They all have the same talking points. Like Tim here. But he's the boot. He is the boot. So I challenge the boot to a fight. Because why not? 100 episodes in. Why not? Let's fight another podcaster. Let's do it. This is the type of stuff that we should have been doing from the first place. Challenging people to fights. Let's do it. Me, Tim Pool, you name the place. I name the time. And we will get it done. And we can even do like a 24/7 they do for unboxing on HBO. We can do that too, bud. I'm in it to win it. I'm a real ass dude. Let's go. You're the boot. Let's go. I want to see how this boot works. I want to see how strong this boot is. I want to see how strong this boot is. But Tim is the only guy we've been checking up on. He may be the only one we challenged to a fight tonight. But we have been checking on old. Well, we never really talked about James on this show. It's been one of my biggest regrets. But we will talk about James Fishback tonight.
Never in my whole life did I think that I would wake up and see a Florida politician trying to start beef with me for clout.
OnlyFans creator Sophie Rain got into an argument on social media with a Florida Republican gubernatorial candidate about his proposed tax on OnlyFans creators.
If you're an OnlyFans model and you reside in Florida, get ready to pay 50% of your income to the state.
James Fishback proposed a 50% so-called sin tax on OnlyFans creators in Florida, which would be on top of existing taxes.
It is called a sin tax because it is a sin, number one. But the purpose of a sin tax in economics is to disincentivize and deter a behavior.
In a post directed at creator Sophie Rain, he argued the tax could help fund priorities like teacher pay and school lunches. Rain criticized his proposal in a video response.
And I would be more than happy to pay that if multi-billion-dollar corporations were also being properly taxed. But surprise, they're not.
The back and forth has drawn millions of views as Fishback, a hedge fund investment executive with limited political experience, seeks to elevate his campaign on a national stage.
Never in my...
And that's what I love about these guys. I love these guys. I love them. Because the majority of them, you can tell, never got buns. So they're upset with women all the time. Women having any kind of freedom. One of the things I've always wanted to talk about on this show is my opinion on OnlyFans. Because to me, it's very easy to shit on OnlyFans. It's very easy to, why are my keys here? I don't know. It's very easy to shit on OnlyFans. It's very easy to have your religious theological discussions about how is it a sin or not. But to me, I look at it through pure economics. The women took back the means of production. They knew for years that men, corporations, were making millions of dollars off their bodies. And they said, hey, why can't I make that money? And it was fine for guys when they had a pimp to talk to, because they knew, well, she doesn't have independence here. This guy's going to make sure I get what I want. Because men love talking to other men when buying things. They don't like talking to women. I find this a lot in my sales job. A lot of men disrespect women on the phone. And I often have to correct that shit. But what happened was, men always loved talking to pimps because they knew if they didn't get what they want, the pimp was going to handle that. But now the woman can go, I don't want you as a client. I actually can do better. I'd rather lose money on this than have to fuck you or have to please you. So when women took back the means of production in porn and prostitution, it rattled everyone's mind. In the show, The Deuce, there's one prostitute that has no pimp. And every pimp wants to stop her because it's letting the other prostitutes realize maybe you don't need a pimp. Maybe you just gotta be able to take care of yourself and have a knife on you. You can be in charge of your own protection. And this is what drives men crazy. That women can now go, well, I don't need a pimp. I don't need a producer. I can do it all in-house. I can hire a camera guy. I can knock out a month of content in a day or two. Bam, I'm making money. Then everyone, at least on the right, does this thing where they blame OnlyFans for the loneliness of men and destroying men in general. But if we believe in free market principles, then it's just supply and demand. There's a bunch of horny losers. This is why the OnlyFans models make money. Are they wrong for capitalizing on a fan base? Are they wrong for going, hey, there's a need, allow me to fill it? They are not. They are not. And it's the free market, as we always talk about. It's a free market. And this 50% tax is insane. Because as the great Sophia Rain said, corporations don't even pay that much. And if you're concerned about all these other things coming from funding, all these other things being funded by taxpayer money, then you should go to corporations to do that. And why are we pretending that OnlyFans models are the only ones doing sinful shit? The CIA does sinful shit all the time. They murder without impunity. They have honeypot operations. They ruin marriages and lives. Our president slept with a porn star. Would she be charged a sin tax as well? And to call something a sin tax is super lame. Because isn't there a separation of church and state? Last I checked. Or at least not according to TPUSA there is. But this is the overall problem when it comes to women in this country, or for women in this country, that even when they take back the means of production and they go, hey, I'll foot the bill myself. I'll pay for the production. I'll do all the big boy things. Don't need a pimp. Don't need an agent. Don't need any of that. I'm an independent contractor, an independent business person, a small business owner, which the conservatives care about. It becomes a problem. Now, I have not subscribed to any of these OnlyFans ladies because I am not a loser. I don't need it. But I will always advocate for people making some cash. We're all prostitutes in our own way. We're all paying a subscription fee in our own way. Life, if you really think about it, when you're born, you have the bare basics of life. You have fun, you have cool parents, I could hope. You have food, you have shelter, the bare essentials. But everything else becomes a subscription service. As you get older, you need things. You have desires now. You're now into music, so now you buy records. They're just a subscription service. Now it's just Spotify. You're into movies. You used to buy DVDs. Now you have all the streaming services. Your government is a subscription service. You pay a tax to them because you're paying them for the right to be an American. The American subscription service. Soon they'll charge you for the air if they can get there. Everything's subscription service. When you start doing drugs, when you start drinking alcohol, when you go out to eat a lot, because life is boring, so you need a new thing. You need life plus. You need that extra thing that makes life worth living. For some people, it's heroin. For some people, it's coke. For some, it's weed. For some, it's sour beers. We all have our subscription services. And these ladies just caught on. Well, wait a minute. These guys are lonely. Let me take a sub and I'll text them back here and there. I'll give them this idea that we're friends and they see me naked, but I'm a cool down to earth gal that you saw naked. And I appreciate you for sending me all this stuff, you pay pig. You goddamn pay pigs. Because we're all pay pigs. If anything, we're all living in subscription sin. But we don't talk about it, do we? How many conservatives have been caught having gay affairs or affairs in general? Why? Because their marriage was enough, so they got a premium subscription of extra side. Money had they given to a OF girl could have prevented their marriage from being destroyed. Think about that. Maybe paying for porn is the move. But pornography is no different than any other industry. Pornography is no different than sports. Sports is pornography. We're watching sweaty, abled men do things we could never do. Never do. Physically. Now, some would say it's not sexual. It doesn't have to be sexual. It is providing some kind of pleasure, though. When I buy the jersey, I am giving them more money. If I buy me a Tanjay jersey, my boy from Wisconsin who's now on the Celtics, if I buy a John Tanjay jersey, I'm putting money in his pocket. Subscription service. We're all living on the subs now, baby. We're all living on the subs. So how is OF any different? How is OF any different? And James Fishback just seems like a pretty big loser. Super lame and wants to kill the vibes. And I'm sorry, but you can't kill the vibes anymore. The vibes have already been killed. Not fun anymore. But I hope the OnlyFans ladies win this war. Because truth be told, who knows who they're keeping alive? Like, we need to not only help them, we need to nationalize them. We need to make them a public utility. Because some guys need it. Some guys need strip clubs. Some guys need a strip club. The false idea that you might hook up with this hot babe. You need it. In America, the fantasy is far more important than the reality. So we should just start a brand new, make America fantasize again, baby. MAFA. This is the beginning. We gave you Blue and On. Now we're giving you MAFA. And I think what they're really scared of is that these ladies, now that they have capital, they have power. So say these ladies decide, right, that they want to take it to the next level, right? That they now want to get involved in politics. They now want to fund certain campaigns. They now have the money to do it. They have real power now. Now, not all these OnlyFans models make a lot of money, but there are some that make like $20 million a year, $40 million a year. And if you think they can't turn the lights out on some political campaigns, you'd be wrong. But they have the money to do so now. With capital comes power. And once again, that's the problem. These women have a lot of power with all the capital they have. And they're not allowed to do that because they don't have pimps. And that's why they call it a sin. Because I guarantee you, if these ladies had pimps, we wouldn't be talking about this. We wouldn't. If Hollywood had figured out how to fuck these ladies, and not like physically, because believe me, Hollywood would find a way to do it physically, but business wise, done. Done deal. But that is the problem when you own a means of production and you have lots of money. You now are a powerful, powerful entity. And you have to be when you're a woman. Like, you have to figure out these things. Well, I was on the subway the other day, and I heard a girl talking to her friend, and she was preparing for a big meeting at her job. This was her first time shadowing one of the big meetings at work. And she was running down to her friend all the things that she's going to be looking out for. Who gives opinions often, who doesn't, whose opinions win over people a lot and whose doesn't, what analytics they pay attention to, who usually leads the meeting, who's the funny person in the meeting. She was going to scope out like a sociopath how this company works all in this meeting. And I just sat there listening to her because she has foresight. She has ambition. She knew, I'm going to one up all these fucks by being a better sociopath than all of them. And that's the key to success. You know, the Epstein generation's out. They're on the way out. Minaj is on the way out. What a pill company. What a great sponsor. Guys like James Fishback want to get rid of the OnlyFans models, but they're on their way up because now they have more market capital. And this lady, let me tell you, this lady was in it to win it. And I was excited to hear it because I legit thought I was lucky enough to hear my future overlord, to hear the woman that will no doubt someday run a big company and decide who lives and who dies in her company, who will be able to feed their children and who won't, because she was already at the bottom level practicing the sociopathic tendencies that it was going to take her to get there. And that's America in the end game. This is the American end game. Everyone's a pedophile. OnlyFans models are now going to be future political donors. They're getting into politics. You got bitch ass people like Tim Pool. This is the American end game. We can't get any lower than this. No offense to the OnlyFans model. I'm not saying you're low, but saying it's for what America used to mean. This is the end. It's now turning into something else. This is the American end game. And I'm happy to be here with you with it. But in that end game, always comes a next phase. If we learn anything from Marvel being unable to call it quits, there's another phase coming. And that girl I heard on the train is the next phase. She will soon be our future overlord. And she will not look like the overlords of the past, but a new boss, same as the old boss, as they would say. And I'm just happy I got a little peek into the future of it. And I'm glad. And I hope her meeting went well. Nothing's going to stop her. She's going to step on everyone's neck. There will be bodies in the wake. And I'm happy. Because we need new overlords. All the ones we have now are pedophiles. We need new overlords. I can't be that because I talk a lot. I talk a lot. And that does nothing. That does nothing for the system whatsoever. I'm kind of a problem. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us for 100 episodes. let's end this a little sentimentally, or at least a little challenging. 100 episodes, we have built up quite a catalog. We have a lot of clips. We have hours of content at this point. And we have a second show that we're getting back to, Darts Across America. And I guess the one thing I want to say is, listen, it's great to tell us how much you love the show in our DMs. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you watching, but that doesn't really help us if you're not sharing the show and if you're not telling people about it. Like, I get it. The content on this show is rough and very hard to share. But I promise you, that we're going to need a bit more sharing, reposting, subscribing to get us to the next level. 100 episodes we did for the love of the game. And I still love this game, clearly. I keep coming back to it, even though I tell myself I won't, but I do. And I'm doing, I got a green screen now. So, I'm trying here. But hopefully you guys in this next era will do more liking, subscribing. I never want to be that guy going like and subscribe. No one be that guy. I hate those guys. But I have to be. I have to be now because we need to see some growth here. Bobby, I'm keeping employed for reasons I don't even know. But we do need some support. So please do that for us. Take up arms for us, Go to war for us. But 100 episodes, it is something I have, had a lot of time to think about while we were on holiday break. A bit longer of a break than we anticipated. It's something. They always say you gotta get past the first 7 episodes, and that is the tough part. It certainly is tough. But I love doing it. I hate to be that guy, but I do love doing it. And hopefully I've gotten better at it. I don't know. You'll let me know. But this one to another 100, and we'll keep going, and hopefully you will share it with your friends and family and go, this is the weird Puerto Rican I listen to randomly at night. And I hope you like our green screen. I promise you we will get it more perfected because there's little chops and formatting all this. We'll get there. But I am very proud of what we accomplished. Shout out to John Abel Gilliam, my brother, who was the early co-host on this show in the now vaulted episodes. One day, those will appear again. I have to see when. Shout out to Raymond Baxter, who was always our executive producer and helping us do everything. Always being a great sounding board. And, just always suggesting things that can make the show better. And couldn't be here without him. Louis Severa, who helped design our intro, which I think we're going to keep. Until we find a new intro, that thing is better, we'll keep that. But he helped, come up with, the way the show is. See his font here and this. He helped, come up with that. A lot of late nights talking about what the show should look like and feel like. Bobby Cole stepped in as our producer. Dirty Marts, who does our music, and just WRKM. They don't pay us still. Still do not pay us at all. But hey, for the love of the game. And who knows? Maybe we'll be here for another 100 years, 100 episodes, Jesus. But I think we all know how this one is going